I've never been the jealous type. At least that's what I always told myself. My wife Claire used to joke that I was too calm for my own good. We'd been married 8 years, long enough to settle into that comfortable rhythm where love looks more like teamwork than passion. I was okay with that, or I thought I was. A few months ago, Claire's company organized their annual holiday party at a fancy downtown hotel. She'd been buzzing about it all week. New dress, new heels, even a hair appointment. I didn't think much of it until I noticed how nervous she seemed that evening. I offered to drive, but she said, "No, it's better if we Uber. I want to have a few drinks." That was my first clue this night would be different. The ballroom was beautiful. Low lights, jazz music, laughter echoing over clinking glasses. Claire looked radiant in that deep green dress. When her coworkers saw her, they cheered, and I suddenly realized how well loved she was at work. She introduced me around. The HR team, her friend Rachel, and then finally, him. "Evan," she said, smiling a little too brightly. "This is my boss, Daniel." Daniel was everything you'd expect from a confident executive. Tall, sharp suit, that firm handshake that lingers just long enough. "So this is the famous husband," he said, grinning. "We've heard a lot about you." I smiled back, but there was something in his tone. Not rude, not flirty exactly, but territorial. Like a man who enjoyed testing limits. Dinner went smoothly. The wine kept flowing, laughter grew louder, and I started to relax. Then the DJ switched to upbeat music, and people began drifting to the dance floor. Claire turned to me and said, "Oh, come on, just one dance." I laughed. "You know I've got 2 left feet." "Then I'll find someone who doesn't," she teased, and before I could reply, Daniel extended his hand toward her. She hesitated for half a second, just long enough for me to catch her eyes searching mine, as if asking for permission. "Go ahead," I said, smiling. "Don't let me ruin the fun." They walked onto the dance floor, her green dress gliding under the lights. Daniel placed his hand on her waist, and they started moving in perfect rhythm. I tried to focus on my drink, but my jaw tightened every time she laughed. The kind of laugh she hadn't given me in a while. I told myself not to overthink, but that small knot in my chest, it tightened with every step they took together. A few minutes later, Rachel, her colleague, sat beside me. She noticed me watching and smiled awkwardly. "They dance well together," she said. "Apparently," I replied, forcing a chuckle. She tilted her head, a mischievous look in her eye. "You know, I don't think I've ever seen you dance, Evan." I looked at her for a moment. "Maybe that's because no one's ever asked." She laughed. "Well, I'm asking." And before I knew it, we were on the floor. I didn't plan it. It just happened. Rachel was playful, spinning and laughing, and for the first time that night, I felt the tension ease a little. We weren't close or inappropriate, just 2 people having fun. But it didn't look that way. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Claire stop mid-step. Her smile faded, her shoulders stiffened. Daniel said something to her, but she didn't respond. Her gaze locked onto me, sharp, cold, like she was seeing a stranger. Rachel whispered, "Uh-oh, looks like I'm in trouble." I smiled faintly. "You and me both." When the song ended, I walked back to our table. Claire wasn't there. I spotted her near the exit, arms crossed, eyes blazing. I could feel the storm brewing before she even opened her mouth. "Really?" she said, her voice low but seething. "You just had to dance with Rachel?" I blinked. "Are you serious right now? You were literally dancing with your boss." "That's different," she snapped. "It was just a dance." I laughed softly. Then so was mine. She glared at me like I'd just broken some invisible rule. "You know what, Evan? You made a fool out of me." I raised an eyebrow. Funny. I was thinking the same thing. The car ride home was silent, the kind of silence that hums louder than any argument. She stared out the window, arms folded, lips pressed tight. I wanted to reach for her hand to ask why this mattered so much, but a part of me already knew. This wasn't about the dance. It was about the shift that had been happening between us for months. And that night, under the soft hum of the city lights, it became painfully clear that something between us had cracked. Quietly, but completely. When we got home, Claire went straight to the bedroom without a word. I stood in the living room, for a minute, staring at the quiet space we'd built together. The wedding photo on the shelf, her coat draped over the chair, the faint scent of her perfume still in the air. It all felt strangely distant, like a snapshot of someone else's life. I finally walked in after her. She was sitting at the edge of the bed, still in her dress, scrolling through her phone. "Can we talk?" I asked. She didn't look up. "About what?" I exhaled slowly. "You're upset? Let's not pretend you're not." She scoffed. "You really don't see the problem, do you?" I paused. "You danced with your boss in front of everyone. I danced with a coworker of yours for one song. How's that different?" "Because it wasn't about the dance," she said, her voice breaking a little. "You looked like you were enjoying it." That made me laugh. Not out of disrespect, but disbelief. "So that's the issue? That I smiled?" She shot me a look that could cut glass. "You made me feel stupid, Evan." I leaned against the wall, crossing my arms. "I think we've been making each other feel that way for a while now." She froze at that. The truth hung between us like a heavy curtain, impossible to ignore, painful to touch. We didn't fight. We just stopped talking. For days, the house felt like a truce between two exhausted soldiers. We moved around each other, polite but distant, and I kept thinking about that moment, the look on her face when she saw me dancing. The same look I probably wore when I watched her with Daniel. It hit me then. It wasn't jealousy that ruined the night. It was attention. The kind she used to give me, that I used to give her. Somewhere along the way, we'd both started looking elsewhere for it, not to cheat, but to feel seen again. Seen. A week later, she broke the silence. "Can I ask you something?" she said over breakfast. "Sure. Did you do it to get back at me?" I thought about it before answering. "No, but I won't lie. When you said yes to dancing with him, something in me wanted to prove I could still matter too." She nodded slowly. "I didn't mean to make you feel small. And I didn't mean to make you angry," I said quietly. "But maybe we both needed that mirror." She looked at me, eyes softening. "Daniel means nothing to me, you know." "I believe you," I said. "But the way you laughed with him, I miss that version of you, the one who used to laugh like that with me." Her lips trembled slightly, and for the first time in months, she reached across the table. "Then maybe we should figure out how to get that back." It wasn't a movie moment. There was no grand apology, no cinematic music. Just two people realizing how far they'd drifted, sitting at a kitchen table surrounded by silence and unspoken memories. Over the next few weeks, we tried, really tried. We talked more, listened more, stopped treating each other like background noise. I started leaving little notes again. She started cooking on Fridays like she used to. Small gestures that didn't fix everything, but reminded us of who we were before ego took over. Still, something in me had changed. I couldn't unsee the distance that had grown between us. It wasn't her fault alone, and it wasn't mine either. It was what happens when two people forget that love needs maintenance. Not fireworks, not drama, just quiet attention. Months later, at another company event, the DJ called for couples to dance. Claire turned to me, smiling hesitantly. "No bosses around this time," she said. I smiled back. "Good. I wouldn't want to get in trouble again." We laughed, genuinely this time. And as we danced, I realized how fragile peace can be and how easily we almost lost it. Sometimes I think about that night, not with anger, but with gratitude. It was the crack that let us see the foundation again. The reminder that being chosen once doesn't mean you stop earning it every day, because love, at its core, isn't about who you dance with. It's about who's still standing with you when the music stops.